Horatio Goes Snowboarding, eh? What could that be alluding to, I wonder? Well, quite obviously, it's a spiritual nod towards ZX Spectrum favourite Horace Goes Skiing. Keep up. For those unfamiliar with Horace's outing, the game was a fairly simple affair. You crossed a road to get some skis, you skied down a mountain, attempting to go through the flags as you did so, and then you continued doing that until your fingers ached or you inevitably died. You did all of this as some sort of shapeless blue mess that no one in their right mind would aggressively pursue legal ownership of. Horatio Goes Snowboarding follows pretty much exactly the same pattern. You cross some roads, you grab a snowboard, and then you go flying downhill, aiming for some flags before doing it all over again. And truth be told, 10 minutes into the game, I was thinking, oh man, I can't believe they thought this would work in 2021. Look, I love retro games. I've spent a long time with gaming as a whole, and I can look at a product from the early 1980s and appreciate what it did at the time, but when a game comes out in 2021 and attempts to slap a coat of paint on top of the creaky bones of a 30-year-old game, a game that wasn't particularly original anyway, let's be honest about that, and oof, this was such a big misstep. Such a terrible... What was that? Did you see that? What were those stars just then? There. Did you see that? What's that all about? Wait a hot minute. Hold the phone. Shut the door. Do I spy a scoring mechanic at play here? You're goddamn right I do. This, dear viewers, is the reason I have just spent hours glued to the monitor. This is a risk-reward mechanic that teases you so effortlessly by dangling a sweet score carrot in front of your fat, greedy face, and then snatches it away by fracturing every single bone in your grotesque, legally distinct round blue body. First impressions can be a killer. I wrote Horatio off pretty quickly when I first started to play it, but that's not necessarily my fault. The game doesn't teach you any of this, it just kind of throws you straight into the game, and at face value, it seemed as though they'd literally just remade Horace and swapped out the skis for a snowboard. But no, much like the snow that fills this dangerous mountain, there are layers. Layers of frosty, score-grabbing goodness. We'll come back to that though, because that's the good stuff, and I want to get the gripes out of the way first so I can continue to say how much I enjoy this game and why. My biggest complaints are fairly trivial, truth be told, but they are there. Firstly, this traffic stage. After multiple hours with the game, I think I've only died on this section once. There's not a great deal of difficulty here, and that's coupled with the fact that, unlike the snowboarding section, the scoring mechanic is simply get to the end. There's no risk-reward at play. It is plain, it is simple, and if it wasn't for the fact that it takes almost no time at all to get through, I'd be close to saying it was boring. The only way I could find to spice it up was to behave like an absolute dickhead and try and run as fast as I could without stopping. It made me wish that my own recklessness was rewarded in some way, because it does such a good job of achieving that in snowboard sections. This part just seems a little limp by comparison. You may think to yourself, but surely that's 50% of the game, and technically, not really. Each of these road sections takes about 10 to 15 seconds to get through, and the skiing parts are a solid minute or so. Consider it an interactive loading screen with a chance of death, and you could probably just ignore the gripe altogether, but I wanted to put it out there. I'm just not a big fan of how simple it is. My next complaint is not coming just yet, because I want to get into the snowboarding. Oh, the snowboarding. How much do I love this section of the game? Any long-time watchers of this channel will know that I'm a sucker for difficult games, especially when I can start to nail them. And Horatio goes one better than simply being a difficult game. It makes you put yourself in danger. If you want a high score, and you will, because that's the whole point of this, then you're going to have to get up close and uncomfortably personal with every single object you can manage. You don't have to do this, let me hasten to add, but I have to do this. I have to. I can feel the call of the void every single time I start up one of these snowboarding sections, and for every massive handful of these, I end up with one of these.
Snowboard or die.
I can't quite put into words just how satisfying this all feels in the hands. None of this would matter a jot if the controls didn't feel right, and they are pretty much perfectly in that zone of a little bit difficult to control because you can't turn on the spot as you're hurtling down a hill, but with a wide degree of swoopiness to allow you to thread your way through the narrowest of gaps, whether by accident or not. After 30 minutes or so, I couldn't believe how quickly I'd initially consigned this game to the ill-thought nostalgia bait shelf, because I was consistently finding wrinkles in the scoring system and the gameplay mechanics. I discovered that hitting every single one of the flag checkpoints was definitely worth doing, and that getting closer to trees and doing it for longer gave you more grandstanding points. I discovered that you need to carve the snow to slow down, otherwise you'll speed up to the point where you're halfway down the screen and have no reaction time to anything. I discovered that knocking filthy skiing scumbags off their hoity-toity skis was worth a big chunk of points. I discovered that hitting a patch of ice or a pile of logs would make you uncontrollably skid in a different direction. But it was also worth points. Juicy, juicy points. All those points just building and building and building and building, and then dead soz, no points for you. And make no mistake, every single time I died, I would literally punch the air with anger, because I knew 100% that every time I did it, it was because I was overreaching or just being plain shit. I was trying to scratch a little bit more score together, but I'd end up just aiming dead center for a tree. Or I didn't make a split-second decision quick enough, or I just lost control of my hands. But every single time, once I'd beaten up an invisible person in front of me, I immediately got back into it. Is it safer to pick your moments and build your score with caution? Is it worth your time to take the full risk and nail every single thing you can? Do you go half and half? Do you avoid all grandstanding in its entirety because you're useless and you keep dying? All these questions go through your head, but when you're playing the game, you are just locked into the zone of doing things with a split-second decision, and it's wonderful. There's even a nod to ski-free. Ski-free, for God's sake. But anyway, enough waxing lyrical, let's get back to a few more basics. You can continue doing all of this score chasing so long as you have enough cash to do so, and you lose cash each time you die, which I guess technically isn't dying. They're not resurrecting you. I don't think they are anyway. Regardless, it costs 100 quid to get yourself resurrected and 20 quid to get a new snowboard. So as long as you've got 120 quid in your pocket, you're able to carry on being a blueberry with a death wish indefinitely, as far as I can tell. You gain more money each time you finish a race, and the prize money is, I think, based on overall performance. I was never quite sure, but then I also didn't really pay that much attention, so whatever. I was too busy avoiding hitting the bloody flagpole at the end. And failing. Let's chuck another criticism in the pot then, shall we? Because I've not got many, and I want to bring this up. I am an impatient man. My patience is very, very thin, so I was exceptionally pleased to see that the little animations at the start and end of each segment can be sped up by holding down a button. That's good. That gets me into the game roughly 1 second faster, and that's time I can use to cave my head in a bit quicker. There is, however, no restart option. So when I start up a game, get my snowboard, go snowboarding, and instantly crash into a tree, I have to press quit, go to the main menu, and then start a new game from there. This adds at least 1 second back onto my time. Look, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I can feel my teeth itching every time I have to do it. I told you, I'm very, very impatient. All that being said, I'm clearly just trying to scratch the paint off a game that is very much priced exactly how it should be. At less than a fiver, the high score chasing alone is going to have me coming back time and time again. I almost don't even want to recommend the game, because if more people buy it, there's more chance someone will take my high score position off me, and I'm very, very happy with my current placement. So please, if you're going to play it, either be bad at it or disconnect yourself from the internet. I don't want to come back tomorrow and find one of your smelly names sat in front of me, or there'll be hell to pay. That leads, meanderingly, to my final point, the music. It might not be to everyone's taste, but I absolutely love the bouncy drum and bass it's got going on. It absolutely matches the tone, the speed, and the excitement of what's happening on screen. I can't describe how many times I clenched the controller, gritted my teeth, and let out a small, manly squeaking noise every time I almost hit something or squeezed myself through an impossibly small gap. And that music kept the pressure on just as well as anything else in the game. They clearly know this, because they've also added an endless mode to the game, which bypasses the lackluster Frogger sections and goes straight for the snowboarding jugular. As you pass through the flags, the music starts to build, the level starts to morph into a school disco, and well, you end up with this. until you miss a flag. But that's exciting, isn't it? Oh, and there's also a global leaderboard attached to that as well. So I guess that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few days. Just go and buy the damn game.